Hey world, and welcome to my October wrap up, this time in two parts. And the reason that is because first of all, I read and watched a lot this month, so it's just a lot to talk about. So I'm gonna divide it in books in this video and films in another video, which will also be up today. But also, I have a really exciting announcement at the end of this video, which works with the books, but not with the films. And it's also, again, something to talk about for a bit. So yeah, that's what today is for. Over the course of October I read 3 books for uni, which I will talk about first, not because I care less about them, but just because it's kind of a theme. And the first one was The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. I have a whole seminar on George Eliot this semester, which is amazing because I love George Eliot and her writing style and her history and everything about her, and it's really interesting. However, this is a bit longer to read, or it took me a bit longer to read, because I did have to get into the story a lot. It is a lot of description. It is so amazing how George Eliot manages to kind of set the scene for you, but still keep a distance between reader and character, so that you understand what is going on when the characters themselves kind of don't seem to understand it, which is really interesting. Also, of course, because she's actually a woman, it's really interesting to see her write about women from a man's point of view, which is amazing to think about. And there are so many little details that I wish I was able to talk to her about and ask her about. And I just had a great time reading this. Then I also read Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, which I don't have with me because I got it from the library. And I've never read anything by Ernest Hemingway, which I don't know why. I think I just never really thought about him that much. But I'm really glad that I had to read this because honestly, it was so much fun. I did sit down for an entire day, just took a Saturday off and read the book in one day. And I think that was actually a really good thing to do, because there's a lot of slow character development that works in really tiny details that change. And I think I wouldn't have noticed that so much if I had read it like bit by bit through several days. And that is one of the things that I enjoyed most about it. The characters Ernest Hemingway writes are super three-dimensional in a way, that they are really realistic, and that I could imagine those people to be actually real, and to meet those people and have to get to know them the way we get to know them in the story actually. So I will definitely pick up something else by Ernest Hemingway. If you have any recommendations or any stories of his that you love, let me know in the comments, because I honestly just don't know much about him and I want to know more now. Someone we all know much about is Shakespeare, and I read his As You Like It. I mean, Shakespeare's always a bit difficult to get into, especially with like the writing and the language, because it is quite old school and you have to, kind of get into the whole timely situation to understand what's really going on. But the thing I always forget about him is that he's extremely funny. I always forget that this man, who's like the romantic writer ever, is actually really witty and sarcastic and just really funny. And this was one of those stories where it just was apparent again, and I enjoyed it a lot. Touchstone, it was my favorite character. He's like the kind of joker, the fool, and he does say a lot of funny things, but actually I enjoyed it more when he said kind of really intelligent things and more like general philosophical sayings that worked in those situations, but then made it appear like he's making jokes, but he really wasn't. And that's something that I found so fascinating, how like the characters, obviously it's because it was an entire different time than it is now, but how the characters said one thing and meant something else, or how a specific movement or a specific way of talking could mean something entirely different than what you're actually doing. I picked up this lovely little book which has this cute zebra with a golden apple, and that's the reason I picked it up, because I just thought, okay, this kind of doesn't make sense. The title would be Life Doesn't Stick to the Alphabet or something like that. I've looked it up, I don't think there's an English translation, which is really sad because this was gorgeous. This was lovely and heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. It's a collection of short stories, each one following the alphabet, and he picked one word for each letter of the alphabet, or sometimes even several words, and for that word he wrote a short story of 2 or 3 pages, and each of those stories just, yeah, knocked me out basically emotionally. It's just extremely fascinating how someone can put so much into so few words, and they weren't like full. The stories didn't feel overflowing or cramped or anything like that. They felt natural. Sometimes it even felt like nothing was actually happening. But once I was done with the 2 pages, I just felt the urge to put the book down and breathe and let this story stay in my head for a bit. The other novel I read this month was Secret Fire, which is the first part in, I'm guessing, a trilogy. I don't know if the rest is out yet, but to be honest, I don't really care because I didn't like this book. And I always hate to say that, but just it really wasn't good. The thing is, the story itself has so much potential. There are those 2 teenagers who have secret powers in them that are kind of connected, and they kind of have to, yeah, work together to find out what is actually happening. But the writing style is just bad. Like, for me, obviously, some people feel different about that, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it's probably addressed to a younger audience, because the writing style was just really simple and blunt and obvious, and yeah, like really unnecessary things and really obvious things were spelled out in a way that it was actually annoying at some points. A lot of the potential was kind of overshadowed not only by the writing style but also by the massive amount of cliches that was in this that made no sense whatsoever. They were just kind of thrown in there as if the author thought, okay, I've read this somewhere and I know the book where I read it like did well, so I'm just gonna put it in here. And again, I hate like saying bad things about books because I still respect the authors so much for writing this. They wrote an actual book, like that's amazing, and it was published and I think it's actually doing well. I just really didn't like it. And the rest of my month was filled with comics and anime. First of all, I read the 4th part of Graffiti of the Moment. I think I read the 1st to 3rd part of those in September, so they should be in that web up. But basically it's an anime about fireworks, which kind of sounds boring, but it really isn't. And yeah, it's about this guy who works at a firework company because his father owns it, and this other guy who's kind of scared of fire because of a traumatic, really heavy incident in his life with fire. But he wants to work at the firework company to, yeah, have a new start in life, which is really sweet. And this is the final part, and it was again just lovely. The characters are so sweet, the illustrations are just stunning. Again, I would have loved to have one where they are actually colored, because it's all black and white, which obviously doesn't really work that well when we have the fireworks themselves. So that's a bit sad, but the description of the firework was enough to imagine how it would look. So yeah, I just really loved this. I think it was a great conclusion to the series. Then I read the 3rd part of SpiderMan 2099. This isn't the last part. I think there'll be 7 in total, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it's about a Spider-Man from the future, 2099, who's, yeah, kind of come into our time, and because he did that, his time changed. I don't want to give too much away because obviously third part, I don't want to give spoilers, but it's just good. It's just really, really good. And obviously because part of it plays in the future, we have like character developments of current characters in our like Marvel time, and we have new characters, and we have like the children of our current Marvel characters, which is so exciting and really funny. And yeah, again, I don't want to give too much away, but I just love the series so much. And the last thing I read this month is this wonderful comic anthology called Love is Love, which is an anthology by a bunch of authors in response to the shootings in Orlando. And some of the profits of this already go to charities to help, yeah, the victims and their families, which is just lovely. And this, just talking about it already gives me all the feels because it's just so emotional. Like obviously it is sad and it hurts like hell, and it's also really hopeful at some points and encouraging. And yeah, I just would urge everyone to pick this up, not only because it helps financially, but also because this is one of those things that I wish would be like given out to schools and everyone had to read it, because it just shows so much of the community, and it makes so many things more obvious that should be obvious but aren't. And it's just, yeah, it's really amazing. And I feel the tears starting, so I'm gonna put this aside and stop talking about it, but please pick it up. And that is actually also the book that kind of leads me to my exciting announcement, which is that I'm gonna do my own readathon. It will be the Human Rights Readathon, and it'll go from the 3rd till the 10th of December, because the 10th of December is Human Rights Day. The reason why I took this specific comic as kind of a segue is because for me personally, it'll be a lot about discrimination and minorities, but also about hopefulness and encouragement of those minorities, and about standing up for human rights. So I'm really excited about this, and I'd love it if some of you would participate and talk to me about some wonderful, amazing, encouraging books to do with human rights. Right now on Twitter there will be a human rights reading thread on my Twitter, in which I'll just tell you some of the books that I want to read forward, that I would recommend you read forward, that I've heard about that should be great. So if you have any other recommendations, either leave them in the comments or go over to my Twitter. I will link it down below, and yeah, add to that human rights reading thread. That's it for today's video. I still can't help but smile. I'm so excited. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. As per usual, let me know what you read this month in the comments down below. And as I said, the film and TV shows wrap up will also be up today on my channel, so check that out if you're interested in that. And I hope you always have a reason to smile, and I shall see you next week. Bye!